Hi, everyone. My name is Aakshi Sinha. I'm from India. I work at Tink. And at Tink, I am a podcast marketing specialist. Specialist is a weird term, but I do like all things related to podcast marketing and also helping people discover shows. That's another thing that we're trying to do more of at Tink.
So let's get your podcasting origin story first. What are the Cliff's notes of what you were doing before and then how you got started and what you've been doing since?
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated from college in 2021.
Oh,
And yeah, so like
congratulations.
pretty new to working in general. And I fell in love with podcasts through this podcast called The Shadows. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
this,
Caitlin
yeah,
Priest.
yes. So I listened to that and I was like, this medium is beautiful. And even though I was a history major, I was like, my capstone is going to be a podcast. I'm going to try this out. And I think it kind of just spiraled from there. After I graduated, I was like, I don't care about the role. I just want to be part of this community. And that's how I bumped into Ariel and one of the listservs and then found Lauren through her. And it kind of like one relationship led to another. And that's how I'm here. And it's been 1 year since I've been working at Tink.
I mean, Tink is like amazing at podcast marketing. So, what's been your biggest kind of podcast marketing lesson or takeaway so far from working at Tink?
I think specifically from working at Tink, it's that marketing is fun and that it's going to be sustainable and you're going to be able to do it in the long term if you're having fun doing it. So I think that's something we do as like a company, and
Yeah.
it's something we really try to like encourage with our clients as well. Like, what would make you super excited to do this?
I think that gets lost a lot because, usually especially indie podcasters are so concerned about the craft of making it itself that then, it's like, oh my God, we're going to spend another that much time promoting it. Like it just seems exhausting when you get to that point. But you're right. Like it can be fun and it can be creative and it can be this really cool collaborative process. So you and I actually did a promo swap. You reached out to me and arranged a promo swap through Tink. So you do explain kind of what you do at Tink, like that and other things.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the many things I do is set up these promo swaps. But promo swaps is like one of the things we set up. So we set up like lots of different types of collaborations. And even a promo swap doesn't need to be a simple 30-second. It could be
Mhm.
like you're reading a warning on another show, or you're reading like the credits at the end. So we try to like brainstorm what those could look like. So sometimes it gets into content a little bit, but then there's guest swaps, like you
Uh-huh.
guest on each other's shows, or you pitch to podcast newsletters like yours and get the word out there in the podcast community.
And yeah, and you guys do a ton of super creative stuff, like you're saying, getting into content. It does a lot of times
Mhm.
masquerade as content, or it is part of the content. So, what's your best advice from everything you've learned for indie podcasters in specific trying to grow their shows?
I think sometimes, especially when you're thinking about numbers, you really want to prioritize collaborations with bigger shows that have
Hmm.
bigger numbers. But I think with indie podcasters, especially small niche communities work much better in the long term. So even if you're working with an average size or small show, but it's a really good overlap, you know their audience is going to love your show. It's way more worth it to do five of those than like
Hmm.
one giant show. But of course, you can do both and mix it up, but I think both are super important. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of like developing a relationship with another show where, maybe you're collaborating quarterly or something. And then you can kind of like stay top of mind for that show's listeners and vice versa.
Yeah. And makes the
Yeah.
process super easy too once you've
Yeah.
already done it.
I'm sure you listen to a ton of shows. So bring me up to speed. What are your favorite recent shows, or what are you just listening to or loving in general these days?
Okay. So the one that I really listen to when I'm having a really bad day is called Make Your Damn Bed podcast. And it's just like, it's like It's this comedian, I think, and she does like these 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and they're very like self-help and encouraging and like affirmation type, like 5 minute things. And I love it. I love it. So I listen to those in the morning sometimes. I've been a forever fan of Modern Love and The Heart. So
Oh,
those
yeah.
are always any new episodes, I'm right there. And I think the last one is the Chosen Family podcast. It's like these queer YouTubers and content creators that I followed before, but they like created this podcast where they like chat as if they're like on the dinner table and it's like your chosen queer family and they just like chat
Oh,
about stuff and it's the cutest thing. Yeah, so that's another one.
oh, that's really sweet. Did you ever listen to, this is kind of in the Heart Shadows family, but did you ever listen to Appearances?
Yes, it's gorgeous.
Such
Such a
a
good
good
show.
show. I know. God. I so one day when I have enough time, I'm gonna like commit to just doing a wacky, cool narrative show like that. That's like goals. Okay, so I want you to audit me. I have 3 shows. You
Mm,
know, Private Parts Unknown a little
mm-hmm.
bit. I have another podcast called The Bleeders. It's basically about book writing and publishing. And then Podcast Bestie, which you're on right now. So you can choose any part of the apparatus to audit or all, whatever you want. But from your expert opinion, what could I be doing better or should I do?
Hmm. Okay. So the one that I'm most familiar with is Podcast Bestie, because
Mm-hmm.
as I was getting into the industry, it was like my go-to place and like for me
Oh,
to be able to share it with like other people who were also new to the industry. And I think you already do a lot of like resources, like collecting a lot of resources like beyond just job opportunities. And I think sharing like a list of other newsletters in the same space, like maybe like something more of that. You already have a bunch of collaborations with different newsletters, but there are always new ones popping up.
yeah.
So
I should do a
maybe,
big roundup.
yeah, like a roundup of sorts. Yes, that's a really good idea.
I like
Team.
that.
That's
That
not what I
was
was
you.
thinking, but that's great.
No, that wasn't what you were thinking? Explain.
No, I was thinking of like recommending, but like categories, but a roundup is like a bigger version of that. That sounds great. Like doing a monthly, yearly,
Friendly
yeah,
newsletters of Podcast Bestie. Yeah, I
like a
like
big
that.
shout
So
out.
explain the categories though. Maybe I should do what you're saying.
You could do with like the best friend themes to be like, this is this friend group. This is the cool moms of podcast besties. Or like, if we're going to the party, this is what like I'm hanging out with these people.
So
Something
you're saying
along.
spotlight kind of one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Cool. Good tip. Okay. So is there anything else you would like to share with the besties before we wrap?
I love the idea of an audit. And I feel like doing like a what success means to you audit as like a
Hmm.
podcaster is something, yeah, I would just like encourage people to do that more often. Like, what
Yeah.
are like, I think I saw this post, like Ariel posted it today or yesterday, of like 3 reasons why you're making a podcast that doesn't have to do with numbers or downloads. And I think just reminding each other and yourself of that is like a great thing to think about.
I love that. Your why. Well, thank you so much for joining me,
Thank you so much.
for being a podcast bestie.
Oh,